talking all things theatre and events.
I'd want to play drums for Eminem at some point.
I've also worked for artists such as Black Sabbath, Metallica, Drake.
Been part of some amazing shows and like worked with some amazing people.
The Stage Is Yours podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Stage Is Yours podcast. I'm your host Cal Graham, joined as always by producer Dan, and we're talking all things theatre and events. So today we have 3 guests joining us on the podcast, and we really do cover all things theatre, from the West End and opera to some of the UK's biggest touring shows. We get into touring life, touring with Matthew Bournes New Adventures, and an awful lot more as well. Let's not waste any more time and let's jump right into it. The stage is yours, Erin Thomson, Sammi Woollard and Gaz Wall. Welcome to the podcast, guys. It's grand to have you on.
Hi. Here?
Grand. So we've not all been together since a Indian takeaway in Bradford, right? The 4 of us.
Yeah,
It was back in March. I mean, a lot's changed since then. So what are we all up to? Like, how are we kind of, I'm going to use the word surviving. I think that's the best way to put it. With nothing going on. Feel free, who wants to dive in first?
I've been doing bits of work for New Adventures the last few months. Little bits and bobs, which has been great. Yeah, just doing some filming stuff. I think one of the films was released. Well, it was released yesterday. There's another 2 coming, and then we did a little project 2 weeks ago, which I'm not allowed to say what it is yet.
That's fine.
Love that.
I don't know why. It's just a big secret. But we were back in the studio for like a week and a half, which was great. And then we did some filming for the BBC. And then we've got something else next week. So yeah, I've just been doing bits and bobs, which has been a godsend really. But before that, I was just playing golf.
Nice.
It's not all
Nice way
bad.
to kill
I
the
mean,
time.
it's not the worst thing to do in the world, but yeah, decorating, all of that stuff you never get to do normally. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, catch up on everything.
Yeah, that's me.
So, Sammi, how's things treated you?
Oh my God, we're in a complete reverse to Gaz. So I was working in a call centre for a little while, which I actually recently left there. I'm not going to name the call centre.
That's fine.
It's not. It was nice, but I don't think I'm cut out for a office desk job, unfortunately. So I was starting
the office desk of the theatre anyway.
Well, I only wanted to do the job because I got to wear a headset, so I felt like I was halfway there. Do you know what I mean? I was like, If I really try hard, it's like I'm calling. It's just ordering like slippers instead of queuing lines. On the side, I've been doing like a bit of website development stuff, which kind of started out as a hobby and now is becoming a bit more of how I'm paying my bills because of where we're at. But it's cool. It's nice.
All right, man. And Erin, through in Glasgow, you're having a joyous time in Glasgow, aren't you?
Oh, it's lovely, yes. I've not done a lot, not going to lie. Struggled to get a job, really couldn't find a job up until last week. So I am now employed again by Amazon. And it is, let me tell you, it is thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. I love every minute of it. I go in with the biggest smile on my face and I come out with the biggest smile on my face. It's fantastic. Can you hear my sarcasm? Get me back in a theatre. But no, it's been quite good because I'm actually like, it's physical, so I'm lifting again and stuff like that. So that's been nice side of it, and it's actually something to get out of your bed for, which is good.
Wear an underwire bra for.
And I get dressed and shower and, you know, actually have a bit of a life again in that sense. I do start we are used to working unsociable hours, but starting at 5:30 in the morning is not really my favourite thing, I'm not going to lie.
All for finishing at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, we're usually coming home at that time. So yeah, but apart from that, I have been doing a bit of redecorating because when do you ever get time to do that? Not usually. So I've been doing that.
Ever at home.
Exactly. I have sanded my full room floor with a hand mouse sander. So
Fantastic.
that took me a long time, but I had the time. So I thought I may as well just go ahead and crack on with that. But yeah, apart from that, I've not done a lot apart from walk my dogs, and that'd be it.
I think we've all we've all ended up doing stuff that probably not ideal, but yeah, find something to fill the time. Otherwise, I think we'd all go completely crazy, which I think we all did, certainly in the first lockdown.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just right. Sammi, you mentioned like side hustles and stuff. I feel like for a lot of people in our industry, like side hustles are hopefully becoming something that's actually worthwhile. So like, I think it's quite interesting seeing all of the different variety of side hustles that people have come up with.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's weird. I've kind of always been like secretly, I'm a secret nerd, okay? I've been into web design and all that kind of stuff for years. It used to be like a hobby. And then when we suddenly had a bit more time, I was like, oh, actually, I'll put myself on like freelancer websites to just do like little tweaks and fixes for people. And then that's developed into something completely different. And there are so many like platforms out there supporting theatre workers who are now having to find a side hustle, like Not on the West End, out of work. There's loads of them out there, and all these amazing people have all these talents that you don't normally have time for, because when you work on tour, it takes over your whole life. So that is a cool thing to have come out of lockdown, I suppose. People like getting the time to focus on that stuff. But it's a bit scary when it's suddenly like your job.
I think it's weird that you kind of, it almost feels like in some ways it's almost forced that you've had to go, right, I need to find something else that I would say good at, but that you can actually make something out of. I think there's a lot of people who have kind of ended up down that vibe, really.
Have you seen Emily's jumper? I mean, you must have seen the jumpers, Carl.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And they're amazing. I think, like I said, I'm all for promoting everything right now in terms of if it's someone's side hustle, but I think they're send them a great message as well that kind of proves our point, really.
She hasn't asked me to plug that, by the way.
Just the earth without art is just
Yeah.
I love that.
It's amazing. Like,
That is class.
You don't realise, do you? What other things people get up to? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. The talents that you've noticed on that West End waiting, especially the amount of like other talents that people have, and you go, you can do all those things on stage, whatever we do, you know, prancing about and all that. Mm-hmm. And then but also you've got all these hidden talents of stuff that you make, and I've seen some really cool, like, well, I'm going to start making candles. I've ordered lots of 5 kilograms of wax. I'm going to start making candles.
Wow.
But I mean,
that's
my side hustle. It's going to be my new side hustle.
It's something I think a lot of people, they've always talked about doing something, or I've gone, I'd like to do this, and now it's kind of suddenly you've got the time to do it.
Absolutely.
Go do it. I think for a lot of us, we're all kind of sat around waiting, hoping that in first lockdown that something that it wasn't going to be what it is, but here we are, 8 months later, still sat waiting, really.
Yeah, it's crazy. Remember in Bradford, we were saying like, oh, see you guys in a month.
Well, yeah, and I would have said actually goodbye to you. Do you know what I mean? Instead of
I know.
Mate, see you in a couple of weeks.
I know.
Weird, wasn't it? It was almost like a bit of a joke.
Oh, yeah. We like went out for the last meal. Like, we'll be back soon.
Drinks, cheers. Shouldn't have went for that curry. We should have really saved our money, shouldn't we have?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
We got one more like night of drinks because obviously we had to put it all back on trucks in that joyous day that was trying to figure that out.
That was the strangest loadout of my whole entire.
And everyone had different agendas. Some people were loading it because some of it was going to go obviously onto shipping containers. So someone had that plan. Rich Bentz was determined that it was going on in he had a really pessimistic view. He loaded the lighting truck as if that was it. He literally loaded it and said, if it's cancelling, I want to unload it. And we were like, really? Nah, it'll be fine. But it was the oddest day ever, I think, in a theatre. And then just emails coming throughout the day kind of going, okay, it's not just next week, it's I think ended up being 3 weeks. So
it was, the funny thing about it was also trying to you're trying to keep it moving. Obviously, our role was to keep the loadout moving and keep the crew kind of motivated and things. but it was that kind of funny feeling of, well, none of us are really sure about our jobs now.
Yeah.
And the whole kind of motivation side of it was non-existent in that sense. Everyone was just kind of like, all right. Also, doing a loadout after literally just fitting it up, the crew must have been like, oh, come on now. It was the
It was
strangest.
nuts. I can remember
thing.
I remember meeting the head of stage at the time afterwards, and he literally goes, we're ahead of ourselves. We've unloaded half of the props truck. That was the first thing he said to me at like 6-7 o'clock Monday night it'd have been. And then literally, I think about 10 minutes later, we got the phone call and we go, well, you bet you wish you hadn't bothered to unload all that now. But Monday night it'd have been. And then literally, I think about 10 minutes later, we got the phone call and we go, well, you bet you wish you hadn't bothered to unload all that now. But it was one of the strangest days, kind of. Yeah, no one quite knew what was happening, quite how long it was going to be, like you said, and we all assumed it was going to be a short little break, but yeah, that's turning it so much longer. So, I mean, we touched on it.
Podcast
and now we're turning this. It started out as just a random conversation traveling between two cities, and like I said, I've had to have something creative going on. I couldn't just kind of sit and do what I'm calling my stopgap job. And not have something, especially when it's mostly night shifts, which is great for which I get lots of time to sit and plan and create things on Photoshop and do that, because it's at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when you still have to be awake, it's you find something to do. But we touched on it there that, like I said, we're all kind of in slightly different situations. As much as we were all touring together, we've all kind of come away from it, and this is a slightly potentially sore subject, really, in terms of the support that we might have had, that we might not have had through the whole kind of process. And I think it kind of, the fact that the four of us were all on tour together, we all worked together in that sense. Yeah, I imagine we've all kind of fallen in a very different gap in terms of what was out there, what help we have received, and kind of that. So I think it'd be quite a nice image to post, really, of just the fact that the four of us were essentially in the same boat with a job, quite happy. Yeah, I imagine we've had 4 very different experiences of the support that was available.
Well, yeah, I think we are definitely very different to Sammi and Gaz. You guys being stage management and with equity contracts, and us being PAYE. Like, we were lucky enough to get the furlough scheme for a while, but you guys didn't get any of that, did you?
No. But we have obviously managed to get some help from the government. The kind of few times that's happened. That was strange, because obviously, like, I live with my partner who was also on the tour, and like explaining it to my parents, they didn't really understand how it's different between the unions, because he was still on stage, and they were like, but why aren't you getting paid? Like, you work in technical theatre. I'm like, it's just the way that line falls. Like, you know, we're a performers union.
Sometimes it works in a favour, and on this occasion it didn't.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, like several months before, when we were working on the performance that was being filmed, it was in our best interest to be with equity, you know.
Absolutely.
It's just, unfortunately, it's just the way it swings in a situation.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? I think New Adventures did the whole like they kept paying us for a few weeks, which was great. And then there was, you know, when they did the furlough scheme, I think all the self-employed folk just across the board, no matter what industry, were like, well, what about us? You know what I mean? Because there was no kind of nothing put in place at that point. So obviously everyone was kicking off. And then they did the self-employed grants, which me and Sammi both received. I think the majority of the company did, like the performers or whatever. I think we were quite lucky in that sense. And then there's the next one coming up, I think, at the end of the month. I mean, it's almost like you are playing catch up with the furlough people. But it's great if you got it, the self-employed scheme, but then there's people that just didn't get it.
Yeah, there's so many people that didn't as well, I know.
Yeah, it's like first years, the graduates.
Yeah. Because you come out of training and you land like maybe quite a big touring job as like your first gig, and you think, oh my God, this is amazing. I've really landed on my feet here. Like, you know, you've just signed a 12-month, 18-month contract. but just because you've not actually been able to complete that first tax year,
Yeah.
it's really, it must
And
be.
then, it's absolutely thrown you to the,
Yeah.
what's that phrase? Thrown you to the
Thrown to the wolves.
lions?
No?
To the wolves, isn't it? Wolves,
Some
dogs,
animals.
lions.
Like, I thought it was lions.
Lions, yeah.
Sharks, whales,
Lions.
Lions.
thrown you to the lions. There you go.
Yeah.
As
Well,
long
I
as
will
it's a
say,
dangerous animal.
yeah, New Adventures have been really good at, like, I don't know if we all get the same emails, but obviously the people that are self-employed, they've kind of been putting the information in our inbox.
Yeah.
For, oh, there's the Fleabag scheme.
Yeah.
Like, there's this coming. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, they have been so supportive in that sense, keeping us all up to date constantly. And whenever they had new information, we had new information as well.
Yeah.
So we had
I think-
very good support from them, I feel.
I
For
think
those
it'd
of
be-
us.
I can't speak for a lot of companies, but like having colleagues that work for for different producers. I'm not going to name names, but they've just been completely shafted.
Yeah.
A lot of people just, not even been offered the furlough.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
It's pretty bad, but I think that some producers have just cut and run. But I think on the whole, people have been all right. It's hard to say, innit, because everyone's going through different stages of support, or it's crazy. Some people just get, have had that mix of self-employment and PAYE, and they've not qualified for anything, which is nuts, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely echo what New Adventure from myself and Erin's point of view in terms of that. They did everything they could to kind of keep us on furlough as long as our contract even would allow. I think they even extended it beyond the point initially of trying to go, well, you would be of this as long as we can. And so the support from them was great on that. And then as soon as that finished, I mean, we all are still getting emails from them kind of keeping us up to date. There's this, there's that kind of involvement as and when we want. Zoom quizzes were a thing, and they're obviously bringing those back as well to keep us all just somewhat sane in these.
They also ran the mental well-being. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought there. They were running mental well-being courses via Zoom for everybody, and that was in recent months. And I thought that was very considerate of them. Very, very nice of them to do that, because they're obviously looking, it makes you feel cared for, doesn't it? And they're looking after everybody in that sense as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think for me, because I've obviously been around the guys again recently, especially the creative team and stuff like that, and people from the office, they are constantly finding ways, or trying to find new ways of helping people. And keeping people going, especially the younger dancers and stuff like that. And it's difficult for the technical team, because you're not nurtured from the age of 4. Do you know what I mean? You train to get your job, and then you're out there in the world. Whereas it's nice to see that they're still trying to bring the talent through and stuff like that. And
they've been supporting, a lot of the dancers in this time have been finding, I keep saying side hustle, but you know what I mean? A couple of the dancers are doing personal training stuff. I know one of the dancers is doing more developing makeup and photography and stuff, and New Adventures have been behind them and helping actually fund their further study, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I don't know many producers that would do that.
No.
I think you could go even further, saying even just companies who, in general, I don't think if their staff are on furlough and bits and pieces, full stop, have gone that far to support staff. And when you think about it in terms of on paper, none of us are currently, apart from obviously yourself, Gaz, who's still doing bits and pieces, have any kind of employment from New Adventures in that sense. I think what they're doing is
incredible,
ridiculous, really, and kind of not many going from that. Well, let's kind of lighten the tone, because it's one of those. I'm sure we could spend hours talking about it and kind of how it's impacted us now. It's all pretty shit, to be honest.
But that's not the fun stuff.
But that's not kind of that. So let's move on. Let's kind of try and explain what. So obviously we were all out on tour together of doing that. I think for a lot of people, when you say you're out on tour, and I get it now. And having gone through numerous job interviews and having to try and explain what being on tour is, I think for a lot of people it's kind of, you're in a band.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that when you go, no, not exactly. So
I just tell them I'm in a band. I'm in a band.
Or they say, oh, you're an actress. And I'm like,
yeah, that one. You're an actor? No.
No. It's always taxi drivers, isn't it? You just need to go like, yeah. Just agree with them.
Nod along, accept it, and pretend you're playing the lead. But so I think like trying to kind of explain to people really kind of what is it like for us and for various different people, because I think we all kind of tour in slightly different kind of ways. Everyone's got how they kind of make it work for them really. So yeah, let's try and open up the world of touring life in the sense of living on the road in a different city every week.
Well, so I'm assuming people who are listening that would know kind of if they're like interested in theatre anyway. I would hope they're interested in theatre if they listen to us talk about it. But so like we tour around the UK and Ireland, mostly the UK though. For me, I am pretty much always away from home. I'm very rarely. There's only really two big touring venues that shows would tour into, which is Glasgow and Edinburgh. So obviously I'm based in Glasgow, so touring into one of those venues is great for me because I'll get to go home. But apart from that, when we're on the road with things, I'm very rarely able to just nip home in between, like a lot of people who are from down south get to do. And also I don't drive, unfortunately. That's my own fault. But if I drove, maybe I would get home a wee bit more. But yeah, so I personally really, really enjoy touring. I think it's good, like being in a different city every week, meeting new people every week. It's really good fun, and you just kind of get on with it though. You get in a swing of it, and then it's just kind of normal, isn't it? It just becomes normal to you to be somewhere different every week and be living in a different house every week or a different place, which you kind of forget. I keep forgetting that usually we would be in Mrs. Miggins.
Oh, no thanks.
Or self-contained. No, guys, self-contained. Mrs. Miggins, no.
You know what I mean? I gotta get a penthouse apartment.
Dead.
I don't know what you mean. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with touring. I didn't tour for quite a while. And then I got offered Swan Lake and I was like, oh God, I don't know, because it was a tour. And I not toured for about 4 years, I think. And the last kind of time I was away in China for like quite a long time, and I came back and then just went back to the West End or whatever. So I was a bit like, oh, do I want to go back on tour? Do you know what I mean? Like in my sort of mid-30s, I was like, oh. But then once you get out there, you just kind of, it just falls into place again. Do you know what I mean? I think when I was younger and I was touring, I never drove anywhere. I didn't sort of have that luxury. So it was like public transport, trains, like lugging all your stuff around.
Lugging all your stuff. Oh, I know it well. I used to tour 2 suitcases. I used to tour on my first and second tours. I toured 2 suitcases. Now, to be fair, one would go in the truck, but like how I ever done that and got the train everywhere, I have absolutely no idea.
It's mad, isn't it?
Willpower.
Yeah.
Or did you guys just fill your cars up, don't you?
Yeah.
Get your life at the back.
Having the wardrobe, innit? Having the boots in the car.
Yeah, and you are literally like sort of mithering people if they can like shove a bag in their car or.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But then I think, personally for me, like the older I've got, and then going back out on tour again, I drove everywhere. I was out driving, unless we were going to Ireland or Scotland or whatever. I'd get a plane or a train or whatever. But you do end up sort of starting out touring, doing everything on the cheap. Do you know what I mean? Like staying in some old Doris's back room. He's got like 20 cats. And some
of them are great though. Some of them are like they feed you really well and all that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a one in Cardiff that fed me well cakes within an inch of my life.
I think the only time I've ever stayed in someone's house recently is when we're in Plymouth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and stayed at this woman's house, and she's like got this amazing house, and you've got your own, room with a bathroom and all that, and she doesn't really bother you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to sort of have a chat with her now and again, but she'll come and see the show and she'll be like buzzing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need to do the whole. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I've seen it 8 million times now, but yeah, I know it's fantastic.
I think on that side of touring, I'm very much like, well, I pay a bit more money to stay in my own gaff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It gets to a point where you kind of go, it's worth spending the extra.
Yeah, I
Just
think
to have your own space, and even do you know it's the cooking side of it for me as well. I really enjoy cooking, and when we're out on tour, obviously you're just grabbing stuff when you can, and we eat out all the time. Yeah. I suppose so. Actually, having self-contained digs where you can cook your own food and just not have to worry about putting anybody out of place in that sense.
Yeah, I think I have to replace my own like house on the road. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you were saying before, Erin, like because you're based in Scotland and stuff. Like Sammi and I are both down south. It's like as soon as I can get out of that building on a Saturday, I'm in the car and I'll go home because I need to have that time at home.
Yeah.
Just for my own sanity. Nothing against anyone I work with. It's just I need to like get out of that because when we're all together, I love that kind of social and stuff. But
yeah,
as soon as I'm done, I have to reset for the next week and then go home.
No, I agree. I toured like years ago, and then like Gaz took a big break from touring for like maybe 4 or 5 years. And the second time around, I was like, right, that is it. On a Saturday when we're finished, I say with our get out, we work in stage management. So when I've closed the prompt book and we've left the building, in the nicest way possible, I kind of don't want to see any of your faces again until Monday, because otherwise, like you lose, like your real life, the outside life, you people at home, everything else. It really starts to get hard to like differentiate. Mm-hmm. And you're literally inside each other's pockets. So we become like, it does sound really cliche, but it is like a touring family.
Yeah, it's quite sickening though, isn't it? How close.
It's great, but at the same time, with your family, there are times when you don't want to spend time with them as well. Like when you're so close to people, it's almost
like being in lockdown all the time, just in different theatres every week. Each other.
Yeah. With less Zoom quizzes.
Yeah. Oh, I really hope that's not a thing again, by the way. I don't think we can do another Zoom quiz.
No.
I don't think we can do it.
It's all right first. I know it's that now.
I know, I love a quiz. And then by the end of it, I was like, do you know what? I've literally never done as many quizzes in my life as I have until lockdown. I'm doing like 2 every week, different people.
I know.
Mad.
Yeah.
No, I think being on tour, you develop a different type of friendship and things like you said, because you're in such an intense kind of bubble, if you like. It's so easy just to kind of bounce around. I know, speaking from mine and Erin's point of view, we were quite lucky on this tour that our day off was a Monday, so which was same for you guys. So actually it kind of meant that we would finish Saturday nights and then actually we would travel Sunday, but we'd have a little bit of time to kind of chill and get there. Whereas for a lot of people on the tour, it was finish Saturday night, travel Sunday, you're back in work Monday as well. So it kind of, for them, there was no kind of real break, whereas for us, I think we looked out a little bit.
We get a day off in the week anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
true, very true. I make it sound like they don't. But...
exactly.
No, but...
I don't know. We used to have our wee cultured Mondays. And we'd go. What did we do? We went pottery painting in Liverpool.
Yeah, that was really.
I think that was my favourite cultured Monday.
I drink my mum regularly.
What did I make? I done a teapot for the Toninis.
Yeah, that's great.
Teapot. I'm sure they drink. I hope they drank tea out of it. Who knows? Maybe Tanya took one look at it and went, "Oh, put that at the back of the shelf. Put that at the back of the shelf."
We used to do quite a lot of escape rooms, stuff like that.
Escape rooms, escape rooms are a great one. I couldn't tell you how many I've done now though. Like I've done escape rooms since I started touring. So, and there's always that way you go back to one on a different tour, and you're like, "Oh, have I done this one already? Have I not?" And you just kind of do that. Oh yeah, not done it before. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I have actually. I know what goes where.
Something actually happens to Erin in an escape room where it's like you see Erin's alter ego come out. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. Like this Erin we're getting now lush.
Competitive.
Erin in an escape room is like competitiveness that I have never experienced.
Where was it we didn't get out?
I'm just a
Oh
little
my
bit
God, she was furious. We let her down. We let her down.
I like how I've been forgotten about on this one.
Oh, it was you, Cal. It was your fault. It
wasn't my fault.
No, because you were like, oh no, it's nothing to do with the clocks. There's nothing to do with the clocks. What the fuck was it to do with? It was to do with the clocks.
No,
It was to
it
do with the
was,
clocks. So you were.
there was someone else with her. It was Shiv's
No,
boyfriend.
You're gonna blame Shiv's boyfriend, but it was not his fault. It was yours. And I'm sorry, but he was a first-time escape roomer, and as a veteran escape roomer, yeah, you should have been pulling your socks up and actually getting the business done. But no, we didn't get out because of you, Cal. It was all your fault. I feel
Yeah,
bad
Erin
about
Thomson
that.
is
That was in
available
Manchester, and that was the
escape
first one that I had not got out of in about 2 years. So I'm just going to put that out there, and I hope you feel bad. You've never done an escape room?
No,
Oh, Gaz, get a grip.
not interested.
You do the Harry Potter one in Edinburgh where it's potions and it's just basically making alcoholic drinks.
Never seen Harry Potter either.
What? I did not know
What I
that.
mean, it is on Monday.
think
So
you'd be friends.
I'll see you all on Monday night for a drink. That's my level.
So, like I said, we get to tour all over the UK. What are your favourite places to tour to? Because we've all got them.
Newcastle.
Oh yeah, Newcastle's a good one.
Newcastle's a hoot. The crew are amazing, like good fun, and the places in general is just so much fun as well. And that it's great.
I
It's a
like
really good
Edinburgh.
venue.
I think Edinburgh is because it feels a bit like a holiday because sometimes you get to go on a plane, so you're like,
Yeah, the worst plane in the world.
You've just offended Erin, by the way, though, suggesting
I know.
Edinburgh over Glasgow.
to be fair, mate, Glasgow's also absolutely banging. I like there's something about a night out in Scotland and the vibe up there. It just feels nice. Feels like a bit
It's all right for us, isn't it? 'Cause
That's like me in Wales.
we're over the border, so we're practically abroad anyway.
yeah.
But,
It's better up here. It's better sometimes.
yeah, I don't know what my favourite place is. It changes. I think Newcastle definitely is up there.
Mm-hmm. They've got a really nice kind of area for us in there as well. Like their green room and stuff's just really nice to. It's a very
I agree.
nice venue to walk
I
about.
like the venue. I mean, it's not the easiest place to work in, but
No.
it's nice. Like the crew are great.
Mm-hmm.
The pubs
That's what makes it.
next door. I think obviously I've got to say Manchester because it's. I'm from there.
I do like Manchester. I love going to Manchester actually.
But again,
Manchester on it.
Yeah. Well, you got to say Salford. We got Salford, don't we?
I know,
Yeah,
but then
sorry,
being at the
Salford.
Lowry though, that's the thing about being at the Lowry is you're kind of out the way. Whereas if you tour into the Palace or what's the other one, the Opera? Yeah, you're more kind of central. I love Bristol as well.
Yeah, Bristol's quiet.
Bristol really reminds me of Glasgow though. I think that's why I love it so much. Like
Because it's so hilly.
people wise, it's really hilly and like everybody's just kind of like, woo.
Everyone talks a bit weird.
Yeah, they all talk a bit funny, just like me.
I
Yeah.
like Bristol because they make quite a fuss of us like on our opening night. I like it when like a theatre makes a bit of a fuss.
Yeah.
What about last time though? We didn't get a cake last time.
Livid. No.
That is the first time I've been there and not got a cake. I was rage.
They normally do like local ciders and stuff as well. Like
They knew a pandemic was coming, so they battened down the office,
Nah.
put the money away.
Bristol was one of the more recent ones, wasn't it? That was
Was
before.
it like 2 weeks before?
Before,
Wimbledon was the last.
2 weeks before.
yeah.
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 Wimbledon's always good to tour to because I live around the corner.
It's a weird vibe though when you tour into Wimbledon because it's like whenever you go into a theatre like that, it's the same with Milton Keynes. It's a less of a sociable week because people.
Yeah.
tend
There's
to
so many people at home. Yeah, that's the weeks that I have no friends because all I use live down south and like go home and then I'm like,
Yeah.
someone be my friend. Nobody want to go for a pint? No, you're all going home. Okay.
No, you're making a last train, okay.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint a favourite.
Probably Woking, mate.
Woking.
Oh, Woking.
The best thing about Woking was our digs.
Oh, they were good
Josh and- they were good digs.
Also, when we were in Woking, we done our first. Yes.
Light bulb.
We done our first. Remember? What was my words? Laundromat. We went to a coin operated laundromat and actually used the big machines and
What,
put the
you
money
mean-
in and all that.
you
It
mean
was
a laundrette?
brilliant.
A laundrette, yeah.
A laundrette. What did I call it?
A laundromat. Stop it.
What's wrong with
I
you?
think I'm in hairspray. I'm trying to be Edna Turnblad here. A coin operated laundromat.
Oh, dear.
I've forgotten how stagey Erin is.
Oh, I know. I try not to listen to musicals that much anymore though, because I do just cry in the fetal position.
Oh,
God,
No,
really?
I'm joking. My mum just tells me to shut up. She's like, "You're in my house now. Can you just be quiet and stop singing at the top of your lungs?" Sorry.
I think I'll be
But
I'm
this is
going to say Newcastle. Newcastle, yeah.
Newcastle. Newcastle
Yeah,
wins hand
Newcastle
down.
for me as well.
It is
Yeah.
a good crap. So similar thing. Favorite international touring spot. I mean, touring internationally is a very different kind of vibe. But if you have a place that you could keep going back to, where would it be?
Oh,
Well, I'm out of this one because the only international place I've toured to so far is Dublin. And Dublin's, I mean, it's not really, but technically it's international. So
yeah. Across the water, mate.
it's actually, that's quite difficult for me. I can't decide between Tokyo and Seoul, I would say, are probably the two that I absolutely love. Like Tokyo was amazing. Like Yoshi, we had this guy on stage with us called Yoshi who was like the absolute best. All the crew were amazing. Like they couldn't do enough for you. The venue was insane. Like it was just, the scale of everything was amazing. And then in South Korea, I'd just never been to South Korea before, and it was absolutely, like, the social side of it and like the touristy side of it was absolutely incredible. So yeah, I reckon Seoul or Tokyo.
I agree. I think. Oh, it's a tough one. I reckon, yeah, Tokyo. Tokyo's amazing. I think everyone should experience that place once in a life. And yeah, I agree with Sammi. Like the theatre was like brilliant. I mean, we was in a different one. We weren't in the brand new one, but it was great. Like we got there and the crew, like it's like they've been doing the show for 6 years.
Oh my god, yeah, it's nothing like it. They knew the show better than we did. It
Oh.
was real.
how is it, do they know? Like, how do they like study it before you got there type thing?
So they sent a guy over to come and like see the show, like their production manager basically, and see how it
Yeah.
works. And like we had things like a gunshot and pyro and things like that they wanted to suss out for their side. And they obviously had all the paperwork translated, but like you got there and they just knew everything. Like they were incredible. I was like, we've never had like a Tuesday tech as slick as this. Like we could have opened in that tech. It was insane.
It was mad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know what it's like on a Tuesday in the UK? Like you get to some.
We're all crying.
What you're gonna get? Do you know what I mean? And it's not that. It's not the crew's fault. Like obviously, you know.
No, absolutely.
Sometimes you've done the show before or whatever, but if it's a new show, you've never done it. And this is just across the board on whatever you're working on. It's like, okay, what are you going to get? Do you know what I mean? You've got to do all that groundwork to get them up to speed in such a short space of time. But yeah, you would have met Yoshi actually. He came to. He's a production manager.
Yes, I remember him.
Like,
I can't remember.
What venue was it?
He came to Liverpool. I think.
Liverpool, yeah, because there was loads of
Liverpool.
space.
And he came before as well. He came on when we were on Romeo and Juliet. He came. He came then as well.
Yeah. So yeah, he'd kind of, like Sammi says, you know, stuff like the gun we had in Swan Lake and the pyro and all the paperwork, all the crew sheets and stuff. Like I sent all that to him about 6 months prior to us being in Tokyo, and we got there, and when we actually went to the theatre, and I remember going in and they wanted to show me the gun, and I was like, all right, yeah, great. And it was literally like for like, wasn't it, Sammi?
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, at first it was a bit like, oh God, can we use this? Was this China where we cut it? We cut it in China, didn't we? Because it was literally like a hand cannon.
It was enormous. I was like, that's insane. Like we can't.
Yeah. And it was
We can't use that. We can't use that.
It was, I think it was actually like a real gun.
Oh.
You fired it and people were getting like, you know, hit with
Tinnitus.
Like with fodder.
Oh, what was it?
Yeah, like that.
But anyway,
See, once on Jersey Boys, we used to have a gun, and oh my gosh! So I would be standing in the wings with the backup gun in case the one on stage didn't fire. So I was to fire it, right? And every single time, without fail, I knew when it was coming. I would still absolutely shit myself every time the gun went off. Luckily, I never actually had to do a backup fire because I would have missed it, quite frankly, or it would have went halfway into the next scene, and then I'd have been like, "Oh, they're so loud in your ear, aren't they?"
Yeah.
Yeah, Sammi had to do that on Swan Lake with it when she was doing the ASM track, like the backup gun. I remember you terrified of it, weren't you?
I'm not very good with loud noise. Like, I don't like being surprised.
Loud noises.
I would literally like jump, even though I would stand everyone by, like on comms, and be like, everyone stand by for the gunshot. And then I would still crap myself when it happened. Then when I had to do the ASM track with it, I was just like, I built up this massive fear about this gun. Because the first time I did it, it like went off in my hand and I like freaked and was like, that's it. Just horrific.
Oh gosh.
That's funny. Well, yeah, Tokyo, I think, for me, and I agree with Sammi as well, like South Korea is off the scale.
That's one place that I was really looking forward to of Red Shoes.
Yeah, I'm absolutely like gutted for you guys that you didn't get to
Well, I wanted to go to Kangaroo Bar and karaoke.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, China as well. I mean, I'm I've got a soft spot for China because I spent not much time there. I've probably been to more places in China than most Chinese people. But as mad as it is, I think there's this misconception about China.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had great experiences there and horrendous ones as well, but it is mental. Like it's nuts, but it's a great place to go to. I think it's got better for theatre, in terms of I definitely noticed the difference in the standard of labour out there. Like
because it's notorious that Japan are better, isn't it?
Oh, they're just
like when it comes to theatre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right, Gaz. I was expecting to go when we went out there with Swan and for it to be like absolute carnage the whole time, and it really wasn't. Like the actual theatre side of things was fine. Like you get some really amazing crews. Just it's the exact same as touring around the UK. Like different crews have different strengths. So some parts are nicer than others.
That is such a good way to put it. I've never heard that before.
You can keep that one, Erin.
I'm going to put that in the bank.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like it is mad. It was different for me as well this time around because I didn't have to do a get-in. I didn't have to do a 15-day loadout like it was the first time I was there. Obviously 15 days I'm being a bit I'm exaggerating a bit, it wasn't that long. But it was mad, you're on the back of a container at like 7 a.m. and no one understands what you're saying and it's all everyone's shouting and it's just like, oh my good God. Whereas this time around it was a little bit more relaxed for me.
That sounds like me in any venue down south. Standing there, no one understands what I'm saying. Just get blank faces looking back at me.
You can't get that in the UK as well, do you know? Yeah.
When you start being Ouija, that's when people can't understand, and then people turn to me being stood at the other end of the truck going, what's she saying?
I get Ouija during a loadout because I get maybe a wee bit frustrated, so I just get a little bit more.
Any extreme emotion in it, Erin, that's when it is.
Any extreme emotion and my proper Ouija comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Shanghai's good.
Yeah, actually Shanghai was cool.
Yeah, but it depends, this time around it was so hot.
Oh my God, I've never sweated from a face. Erin, honestly, like as a celebrity now, you'd be like stood still and be like, I can feel sweat moving on me.
Oh no, I can't cope with that. See when it trickles and you feel it sitting in your eyebrows and you're like,
now, like putting makeup on in the day, absolutely not worth it because it just melts off your face.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Yeah. You should have got your DSM sweatband, like a wee tennis one.
Mate, I would have needed like a tash band.
Sula, Sammi had a Sula.
But it's like outside, but in the theatre it's like an igloo because they got the aircon.
Oh, right, okay. So you just bring a change of clothes,
Oh God, I used to walk.
walking in.
I used to walk to work. I mean, I got a cab a few times. But the theatre was probably 10-minute walk from the hotel. You know what I'm like with cabs. So I was like, I'll get a cab.
Have they got aircon in the cabs?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, they smoke fags and all that in it, don't they? They smoke cigarettes in the cab.
Oh, yeah.
Those now.
Yeah. I'd literally walk to work and I'd have to get changed straight away.
Yeah, it was really grim.
It was bad. I kind of the plus side of not being there with red shoes is that wearing that costume on stage.
Oh
I think
gosh. Mm-hmm.
I was about to say,
were
not
like
in those
heavy
costumes.
it would have been a killer. But
That Master Carp costume as well. Erin,
all that
flannel shirt.
flannel everything. And what were those horrible trousers I had? Those jobby brown trousers. What were they? They were like the heaviest fabric I've ever experienced in my life. And we all know that they weren't flattering in the slightest. Thank you for all your wonderful images of me at the start of the tour that got put everywhere.
Babe, you made it work.
What?
You made it
Oh,
work.
I made it work. Of course, I flaunted it.
Yeah.
All those moments, all those starring moments on stage. We seen you in the when Red Shoes Cinema was released. I went to see it with my mammy and I cried the whole way, pretty much.
I'm in it.
My mum was like, "You know what's going to happen? Why are you crying?" I was like, "Because I'm not working on it.
Because we're not there.
Because I'm not there right now." Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't it? It would have been great to go away. Actually, you know what? Personally, I was like, we've still got Asia, you know.
I know.
I thought we might do Japan.
I thought no.
I thought we might.
No, and the funny thing is that everything's sort of carried on as, you know.
Well, Phantom was on in Korea the entire time, hasn't it? It's not closed.
My pal Dave, he was on that for the whole time, and he's away back. He's away back out now. They're Taiwan now, I believe.
I got a video actually from one of the carpenters this afternoon, this morning. Sorry, and they're all out there having a good time. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's ironic, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But
because they were they the only show who carried on throughout, like the global lockdown thing, wasn't it? They were the only ones who kept going.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, everything else
quite,
was
quite a claim to fame, I feel.
But hopefully, like, you know, like I said, for you two, I feel sorry for you guys that you didn't get to do that this year, because like UK touring's like it's great and all that.
Yeah, but when kind of once you've been round this circle though, you kind of know it, and
yeah,
it is good. It's still a lot of fun, but the interesting stuff, I think, and I feel like personally for me, I was really looking forward to international, not just for the like travel side of it, because of course that would be amazing, but for how much you learn. Like, because it's completely different, so you kind of get a wee bit stale and set in your ways in the UK in that sense. Although every week's still different and every theatre is different, so you need to adapt. You're still not really getting pushed out your comfort zone all that much once you're used to it. So I'm really looking forward to going international to see like how completely different it was, and like getting to actually kind of challenge yourself in that sense if you have to kind of adapt to a completely different way of it.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's just everything else as well, you know, you've got to adapt to just how you walk down the street.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And all that stuff.
And it was like different, different times? There were completely different times as well.
Well, they announced the Tokyo show schedule, didn't they?
It was like 1 o'clock and then 8 o'clock in the evening, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, we used to have days where like we'd go in and do a show like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then finish at like 7 and be like,
oh my god, yeah.
Oh my god, amazing. Like
we had like on Swan Lake, I think we went in for a matinee at like 12 o'clock. I mean, it was pretty shit for the dancers because they had to, you know, do class at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
6 in the morning. Oh, what a shame. That's why we're not dancers, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, we do like a matinee like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we'd be done at 4, and then we'd have the whole evening, and then we'd have a day off.
Yeah, it was
it was great.
Downtime, it was unreal.
Yeah. And we were due to be in Tokyo just before the Olympics as well. So I think some of our
Olympics, you were buzzing about that, weren't you?
That was going to be my 2 weeks in between before we went to Shanghai. I was planning to literally spend that and just try and see as much, obviously travel around, but the plan was to, if I could have got some of the Olympic stuff as well, that would have been even better. Like just the chance that you could have been at a foreign Olympics at the time and by chance.
I know.
That would have
That's
been
cool.
absolutely ideal, but
That's
we'll get there
again.
again.
Actually, all the kind of travel plans that we had for in between.
We had
as
loads.
well.
Tattoos in South Korea.
Oh, I know. Oh, I'm gutted now.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Me and Siobhan were going to go to a Blossom Spa. Do you know what I mean? All these things. I was going there to work really hard. That's what I was going to do.
Well, that's it. It's not a holiday. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not
And
staggering.
when you've got the weekend between, no, that's like the weekend. What was it? Was it a week we had in between Tokyo?
I think we had 2 between Tokyo and Shanghai,
Tokyo
didn't we?
and Shanghai.
Yeah, it wasn't long. Because I know last year we finished the UK tour and then we had like 6 weeks off on it, Sammi.
Yeah, we had 6 weeks before Japan, and then there was like, I think about 2 or 3 weeks between Japan and China, and then a couple of weeks between China and South Korea. So in those pockets of time, you can do so much traveling. It's amazing.
It's already out there, so why not?
Yeah. Exactly. And my friends at home were like, "Why are you taking a gap year at like 32? Like, are you doing any work?" I'm doing so much work, but like, I'm also like, now I feel really lucky because at the time I was a bit like, "Oh,
yeah,
is this all right?"
Gap year.
Okay, it was literally a gap year.
Gap year.
So good.
Love that.
Yeah, I think I was going to stay out this year. Last year, I didn't. I went home every time. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, I mean, I for someone who hates flying as well, I was on that plane. I was on that plane a lot. But obviously, commitment to home and stuff. Whereas this time, I was like, I might stay out for a bit and have a bit of a jolly. Do you know what I mean? Oh well.
So let's kind of, obviously international touring, we're gutted that Erin and I have missed out because Rona ruining more, but I think it'd be what would eye open for a lot of people is actually what we do. We say we work on these shows of doing that, but I think for a lot of the time, I think a lot of people don't realize quite everything else that goes on and quite how many people are involved in making it happen, especially at some venues, obviously internationally, but even within the UK, I think certain venues are different to others. I mean, Sadler's is a really nice venue to go into with using technology. Some older theatres, obviously we get different technology to not utilize, if that makes sense. So I think just kind of a heads up about what we actually do, quite how many people are involved in these shows, what you individually do on a show, or roughly. I'm aware that's a very broad question depending on what show you're working on.
All day.
Exactly. But I mean, having just done that, trying to explain to someone what a technical swing is, who has no idea, is a nightmare.
And does everyone hit you with the same witty response of, "Oh, you're a swinger"? Yes. That's exactly what I do. Yep. I get paid
professionally.
I don't know really. I mean,
but you don't know what you do?
No, I don't know.
That's worrying considering you run the full thing.
Who am I?
Guess what? Stage manager.
I think for me, I don't know. It's weird when you do say to people that I'm a stage manager. They go, "Oh, what's that?" Some people get it straight away. They go, "Oh, right, like so you work in theatre and stuff." And I go, "Yeah." But I don't know. Sometimes you get so bored of trying to explain it. Do you know what I mean?
I know. It's so difficult to explain to people who maybe aren't in the arts or anything like that, or don't really. Because I find more often than not, people that you try and tell about it, they just look at you with a blank face as if, right, okay.
Yeah.
It does get boring almost trying to explain yourself every time.
I know it might sound like really ungrateful. You're thinking, why should I have to explain my job to you? Do you know what I mean? But it's not that. It's just you almost develop a kind of it's like a speech you've got prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, I always rock out the same thing. I always say it's like air traffic control but with humans rather than planes.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That's a great way of looking at it.
Either that or I'm just really bossy.
I just tell everyone what to do and when to do it, and that's that.
Do it.
It is weird because you can't. It's hard to, unless you physically show someone what you do.
Yeah.
Like I had someone a while back, an ex-partner of mine's parent. He couldn't understand what I did. Like, and he I think he just thought it was like the magic theatre fairies that make things happen. Do you know what I mean? And that's
what everyone thinks. That's what everyone thinks. It all just kind of happens, and that's it.
And it wasn't until I actually showed him, like I gave him a tour of a show I was working on at the time, and he was just like blown away by it. Do you know what I mean? He was like, "Oh my god!" And that's when you can really kind of fully explain it. But yeah, I don't know. You do, like I say, just kind of have like a script ready, sort of, tell them what you do and stuff. And it's yeah.
Like even my family still, like I've been doing this for, I mean, not that long in the grand scheme of things, but I've kind of done it for how old am I? Right, so like working in professional theatre, I've done it for 6 years now, but like I've always been in and around it. And still trying to explain to your family, or you say something as a passing comment about work and they go, what? And then having to kind of explain it all over again. And like, I think it was Liverpool, actually, when we were in Liverpool in February, my mum had come down for my birthday. And it wasn't till I took her round, her and my little brother round for a thing, she was like, oh, all right. So you do that and you do it. And I was like, yeah, because she couldn't quite see the whole technical swing thing. I don't think because I've done that. That was that's been my role for the last 3 tours I've done. So I've done it for a while now, but I don't think she fully grasped that I like cover everybody's days off and things like that and have to learn every part in order to kind of, to cover the days off. So when I went in and I showed her the automation side of Red Shoes, she was like, oh, what, they let you do that? I was like, yes, they do. Cheeky woman. But yeah, they do. Like even though 6 years I've been speaking to my mum about it, she knows, but she still doesn't. She still can't fully understand it because I don't think you do until you actually see it happening in front of you. Do you know what I mean? Which is why I think it's always good to, if we've got the opportunity and people like you get friends coming to see the show, it does make more sense to them once you've given them a tour. Like. Yeah. Friends of mine who have come to a show and I've given them a tour at the end and kind of explained things, understand what I do now so much more than my other pals who maybe haven't had that kind of experience. Because it is, I suppose, it's difficult to try and grasp if you're not in it. It's
well, especially because the whole point of our job is you're not meant to notice us doing our job.
Exactly.
Like if you notice us, we're not doing it right.
Yeah, something's gone wrong.
Yeah. Like my sister came to see a show that I was working on and she sat next to the sound guy with a headset on. She could listen. Like I gave her a comms pack and was like, do not press any button.
But just listen.
Just listen. She'd seen the show before, so it wasn't ruining it or anything. But like, so she could just hear like all the channels communicating with each other. And she was like, oh my God, you would never assume that there were that many like people
voices
talking to each other while a show is going on.
Yeah.
And how busy it can be, like when there were problems that were coming up on comms, but like she's obviously watching it and going, well, I can't see that happening. Like it all looks fine.
Yeah.
From out here. So that's
the really cool side of it, I suppose. And also your comms are even more difficult in the sense that if we've got an issue on stage and we're communicating with each other, you've still got us in your ear, but you can turn that off. Like
Sammi would have all channels, so she can potentially hear everyone.
So
if she wants to. But
so you can hear everybody and you can hear all that going on and you're having to listen to that. Meanwhile, you're still having to cue the lampies and the noise boys and get them doing all their stuff. Meanwhile, all this like stuff goes on. So I think listening to it must be for someone who's not in it as well. Or even like, when you give work experience people comms and they're like, oh, and you're like, yeah, babes.
What's going on?
It goes one of two ways. But yeah, for me, it would actually be more like, I feel like by the time we've got to performance, we kind of know what we're doing and we've got it. And when problems do come up, we solve them quite quickly. Mm-hmm. For me, it would be interesting for someone to sit in and listen to us do tech. Because I feel like that is when you're really grafting and like, that's probably like the most
Typical.
pressure the situation has, and it's quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested, but I'm biased because I'm.
I'd love to publish it, like have it as an optional extra on a DVD that you could listen to
Listen to the cues
watch the
behind
show,
it.
but listen to what's going on.
I wouldn't be allowed on comms that show though.
You'd have to do like a no
Or
swear.
Gaz.
A no swearing show.
No, the Opera House did like I think it was called Behind the Machine, and they did like, I can't remember what opera it was. It was like one of the mammoth ones, and you could literally tune in to listen, or they had like cameras set up, and you could watch like it from the perspective of the lighting team, from the perspective of the sound guy. You could hear comms, you could follow the book, you could like, and that was amazing because you see how many different departments are involved.
Yeah.
So, you know, something like that would be great, Callum, if you could just arrange that.
We'll try and sort that out. Okay, I'll make a note.
No, one of my favourite things was when I was a book cover on my first tour. I was a book cover, and everywhere else I had to do my fancy voice, like my DSM voice. Did you see that wee wink? You wouldn't have seen it, but for everyone listening to the podcast, I just winked, essentially. No, I did my DSM voice, but when I got to Glasgow, I didn't have to do it because by that point, the other crew, who obviously weren't Glaswegian, couldn't understand me. And I was at home with my home theatre crew. So I was able to just call the show without my DSM voice. And that was quite a satisfying moment. Never went back to it though, that DSM. And we'll leave that to Sammy now.
Thanks, Han.
She's the Dawn.
Done.
The Dawn of DSM.
I think a thing that I get asked a lot through various bits and pieces is obviously we work in theatre and we essentially get one shot to get it right. And a lot of people ask me is, do you feel the pressure when you're working on a big show, like to get it right?
Do you mean a show like every single show, or just
whether it's just that you feel it on that obviously everyone has opening night nerves and stuff like that, that's fine, but I know that certainly some people who come and see it go, oh well, do you not feel like, is it not really stressful doing that every single night and having to know, in theory you're doing it to 1,000 different people every night, so you have to get it right?
It's weird. It's like I actually really enjoy that. That's why I like doing my particular role, because I enjoy that feeling. Like, you know, Gaz obviously, once he hands over to me and we start, like it is a bit of a train. Like once that music starts, you can't stop and be like, hang on, I need a minute. Like, so it's quite, I enjoy that feeling of like, oh my God, okay, here we go. And obviously that does go, the longer you work on a show, it becomes like second nature and it's really comfortable. It's kind of like that every new venue, because you never quite know how well things are going to go with a brand new team. I did like one show where it was a live broadcast. We were in the Barbican, and I actually did think I was going to throw up. Like I have never ever been that nervous in my entire life. To the point where I was like, you have to have a word with yourself, because in a minute you're going to have to talk, and you're doing that like high shrill freaky voice you do when you get like really anxious and you feel like you're being okay, and actually you're really that was like, because I knew it was live, and I was like, you really like, I don't know, there was something different in my brain between it being like live in a theatre and live also being broadcast. I was like, that's mental to
that
me.
is different though, isn't it? Because it's not just the people in front of you, it's
so people that do that,
there's then thousands of other people watching on telly as well, and you're just like, I think we definitely need to be adrenaline junkies. Like I think that's kind of almost why we do it in a sense, is the accomplishment you feel when it does go right, which is hopefully the majority of the time. I mean, any show I've ever been on it. No, I'm joking. we've all messed up. I've done some absolute belters over the years, I'm not gonna lie, but that I'm not proud of, but there we are. One of the sayings though is I've effed up bigger shows than this. That's what you just say to make yourself feel better, when really you've maybe not. But no, you definitely need to have a bit of kind of, I think the adrenaline side of it is what gets you through to the end of it. And it's only really stressful the first, well, obviously every opening night, everybody's buzzing, and it is stressful because, like Sammy said, there's a new team and you don't really quite know how it's going to go. And even though you've done the tech, it's still just fresh on everyone's mind. So local crews and things like that, as much as they might have done something in the afternoon, something might be different in the evening with the cast being there, or like, because when we do tech, not all the time sorry, that was terrible grammar. It's not always that all the dressers and things like that are there, or the dressers might be in place where they would be in the wing, but the wiggies aren't. So you might have an extra person there, so you bring a bit of set off and you don't have that space that you had in the tech, so it all goes, like, it could potentially snowball at that point, which is part of the fun of it, I think, really. Like, you know, in the wings it's just wild sometimes, but you get to the end of it and then you go big deep breath, and then you do it all again twice the next day. So it's that kind of, it becomes muscle memory, but at the same time, every new venue is that new adrenaline of, right, okay, we're doing this. And you kind of have that for the first 2 days, don't you? Tuesday and Wednesday, you've kind of got that.
Yeah.
And then everything kind of settles in.
I feel like a Wednesday show is always more nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
If an opening night goes well, I'm always a bit nervous about the next night, because everyone thinks they know it and they're really chill now. And that's when, like, stuff things happen. But,
yeah.
I think that, like, for me, it depends on the show as well. Do you know what I mean? I think if we're talking, like, if you know, doing a show in the West End or whatever, and it's a brand new show, I always find that pressure a little bit easier to work on a show like that that's being created from scratch than I do on a show that's already established.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, especially, you know, like when I joined Swan Lake, I've, like, felt immense pressure on that. Like, I didn't really understand how much pressure I was feeling until we kind of got to tech. Like, you obviously, as a stage manager, you just filter it out so no one can notice it, you know, even though you're sort of dying inside a little bit. But I think because it's a show that's so established and it's got all this aura of success around it, and because it's so particular, and it's, you know, and it's Matt's baby, it's like, oh my God, you know, this has got to be right. And when you are stood out front looking into the void of a tech, and, you know, and you're trying to sort of, you know, you know, it's like you're trying to keep it going and you're getting nothing back, and you're like, I'm gonna get fired.
I'm out.
I used to joke to Sammi on comms. I'd be like, I'm gonna get fired today. Do you know what I mean? And it's ridiculous because it's not.
You do feel that. Well,
it was not the case at all. It's just because you're trying to get this thing right.
Well, Red Shoes in Salford, was it my first day doing the auto I'm on? Remember? And I messed up the last 2 queues.
Yeah.
And I literally, like, although you stay calm in the moment and you need to just get on with it and do it, and that's fine, which luckily I'm actually very good at getting it done in the moment, but it's afterwards where I'm just like, like, I was beside myself, absolutely beside myself, because I felt like this not immense pressure in that sense, but I was obviously nervous about it, mother. And then I almost got to the end of Act 1, was just about to do the big deep breath, and then I messed it up, and I was like, oh no. And you get all that, like,
well, that's it. It's after.
It needs to be inside. You cannot let it come to the surface until the act is done or until the show's finished, and then you can, like, after that you can let it out and process it.
Yeah.
But until then, you need to keep the head, don't you? You need to just like completely put a face on and keep. But that's the whole fun of it, I think.
Yeah, I agree with Sammi as well. That you do get used to the flow of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think for me, like, once you kind of start a show, you know, even if you've been doing it for like a year or 2 years or whatever, I think the longest I did a contract for in time was like best part of 2 years, and I was just like, oh God, you know, you are just going to work, doing your cues, and you sort of going home or whatever. But then you still, like, go, oh my God, yeah, there's an audience out there.
You almost forget sometimes.
Yeah. Whereas I think with, and it depends on you. It depends on your role as well. You know what I mean? If you know, when I was an ASM or whatever, you don't have as much responsibility as, you know, being a stage manager or whatever. So you're not as, it's like a different level of pressure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Well, for me, being a stage manager now, you kind of, you are the point man. Do you know what I mean? So you've got the added pressure of the show, and then you've got the added pressure of knowing what everyone's supposed to be doing. And then you're always waiting for me, you're always kind of looking 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead for something to go wrong. So
can prevent it before it happens.
Yeah, you're trying to work out every situation in your head, and what if that goes wrong, or what if that goes wrong, and what would you do? And so that's, for me, that's like the pressure I kind of feel on a show. But then you just sort of, with experience and whatever, you just kind of, it just becomes second nature, and you just deal with it.
Yeah.
You know
I used to feel massive amounts of pressure being, so what was the first show I was swing on was Jersey Boys, and I had like 7 or 8 different plots to learn, and I felt massive amounts of pressure because I was like, right, this is a big show, and it is a big show, but like by the end of it I knew every plot inside out, back to front, but it's the initial kind of the fact that you've got to learn them all, but learn them to the standard that the person whose role that is does it to every single show. So that feels like a lot in that sense, because you're like, I need to do it as well as they do it and exactly how they do it, so that nothing changes for the cast, all that kind of thing, taking all that on board, but then having to learn the next one the next day, a different role, blah blah blah. But then I would feel far more pressure doing the automation track than I would doing an ASM track. But that's just because of the nature of it. Like covering automation, you have to be so aware of so many things. Not that you don't as an ASM track, but it's different pressures for each.
Yeah.
So ASM, you're more concentrated on making sure that the scene changes are happening, all the cast have got the correct props, that like you're keeping an eye on stuff happening on stage and all that as well. It's all that kind of stuff. Whereas automation, it's all the safety side of it, is watching the cameras and making sure you've got your foot on the dead man and all this kind of stuff. Like it's different pressures for different things. So I think everybody, like every different role in what we do has different pressure, a different element of pressure, if that makes sense.
I think that's
Even
a
though
challenge
we're
in
all
next week.
feeling it. As a whole, we're all feeling it.
It's like I have the whole of rehearsals, the whole of tech, all of like previews, whatever, to like really get to grips with what I'm doing. I always feel really sorry for like the book cover.
Yeah.
Like you can work and you can prep and you can, prepare that person, but the first time they're going to actually have a fair crack at it is going to be in front of a paying audience, which is terrifying. Like I remember learning Gazzy's track and being like, oh my God, like,
yeah, you've just got to do it.
This, and there's like, this is a show. This isn't like a safety net. Like you can practice, but the whole point of his job.
We don't get dress rehearsals for learning the plots or anything like that.
And that adds a lot of pressure because you're like, you just want to do your best job ever, but like adrenaline can do mental things.
Yeah.
And in the moment it's live performance. So like something can change. So you think, well, we haven't practiced that like exactly.
Oh, but you just got to do it. Yeah. But that's the bit. See, that's the stuff that I love of it. Or like showstop, of course. I mean, I was about to go Touch Hairy Wood. Not like we're doing a show, but Touch Hairy Wood. Not that I ever wish to have showstops, but when you do, that's when you kind of go, right, we need to solve a problem quickly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a thing on your feet one. Sometimes it's one of those ones where it's just a flying bit or whatever.
Yeah.
And you go, like Jersey Boys, the automation sometimes wouldn't be our best friend, shall we say? And
a little bit of that on shoes. A little bit of that on shoes.
And a little bit of that on shoes, yeah.
Ghosts in the machine.
Well, sometimes like these technical things are just don't have an answer in that sense. Like, and you just kind of have to wing it and whatever. But then that's when your adrenaline gets going. You go, oh yes, we get to problem solve now. So like, do you ever find that like you've done a show for so long, and then it's like muscle memory, you're getting bored, and then you've something pops up, a problem happens, and then everybody's like, right, this is why we do this, because you have to problem solve, you have to think on your feet, you need to get straight back in about it and just pretend like everything's still happening all right, kind of thing. And that's a lot of the pressure, but yet that's kind of a fun part of it, isn't it?
Mm.
No,
As much as it's not, well, no, it's not fun at the time. Of course, it's not fun at the time.
Talking to two stage managers with all the pressure on them.
Yeah, it's not funny explaining in a show report afterwards. I'll tell you that for free.
Oh, well, yeah, you guys have to do that, but don't you? You need to actually write it up.
I'm generally safe sat out at a desk, so it's not too bad.
I hate it.
In a way.
I hate it. Honestly.
Yeah.
No one is ever the same. You can think, oh, I've done one like this before, and there'll be something else that makes it slightly different, or
yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's a weird thing for me. Like when they happen, you just go, "It's happening."
Yeah.
It's what. It's almost like depending on the group you've got around you, you're like, "Oh, how's this person going to react? Or how's this person going to react?" Do you know what I mean? I mean,
nobody wants a flapper in a showstop.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been quite lucky the last few contracts where everyone's been pretty sound, but I think I always kind of set out my stall quite like sort of fairly quickly in how to do things. But I mean, I remember being part of like being on shows in the West End or whatever, and there's been a showstop, and it's just like all hell has broken loose, and you're just sort of like, well, it's almost like laughable sometimes, like it always gets sorted out. But I think that the funniest showstop I ever saw was Bodyguard opening. It was our first preview at the Adelphi, and 10 seconds we had the show stop.
10 seconds into the show?
Yeah. Literally 10 seconds, and it was like it was carnage on stage, you know what I mean? But it was almost quite funny while it was all getting sorted, because it was new, do you know what I mean? It was,
yeah, of course.
You're doing a show, and you've not even had time to even get to the point of like contingencies or like, you know, and that is the worst. I think me and Sammi, we kind of try and get our sort of
you said runs out really quick.
Because there is times you get to a showstop and you're like, oh, we've not even spoke about this.
Well, we nearly had one. Like, we nearly had one on the opening night of Swan Lake. So you've already got that pressure of like, oh my Christ, this is such a big deal, this show. Like, for a lot of people, you've wanted to work on this show for so long. And I honestly, shit you not, it was like the last minute and a half of the show. And like, we'd only just teched the thing. Like, we were opening. We hadn't had time to sit down and go, right, so if this happens, how are we going to deal with that? And it's like, oh my God, like, why is this happening? This is...
Yeah, that was bad, wasn't it?
It's my life.
It was fun. Thanks, we didn't actually have to stop in the end, which was really lucky. But from that moment, we were like, right, we are making a spreadsheet. Like,
no, you guys are. Like, I couldn't believe how quickly we had contingencies from you guys. Like, and you've done an actual document. And I mean, personally, it's just because I've never had that before, and I thought it was. I was like, wow, I've got a reference. No, I've had some. There's been some belter showstops over the years.
I think you always learn from your mistakes, though.
Good and bad, I think.
Yeah.
I think it just poses the challenges that sometimes it's not what's even going on in the show. We've got
that's true
2,000 people that also might just be there and give you interest in things like.
I had a showstop once because a cast member was watching a football match in a dressing room.
I know who this person is as well.
Times that they would not bring their phones onto stage to watch the football match. So there was a number of cast members in a dressing room watching the match, and we're getting up to a point in the show where this person was meant to enter, and I'm thinking, well, they're normally around at this kind of time. Like, it's weird that I've not seen them. Suddenly a performer comes up to me and goes, oh, we have to stop because this person needs to go to hospital, because they were celebrating a goal, smashed their hand up and smashed their hand through like a metal grated light in the ceiling of the dressing room, and like cut all their hand open, and felt that they couldn't come and tell me because they weren't really meant to be watching the football match anyway.
Oh no!
And we were also in the venue. There was no tannoy system because it was a hotel theatre. This is an island.
Oh, what?
Which was honestly,
wow.
That was
that's like York, the theatre in York. To do the half hour and the 5-minute call and all that, you need to run round up the stairs and down all the dressing rooms, chat the door, 5-minute call.
Disco style. Yeah, that was not a good one. That was
goodness gracious.
Unideal.
Well,
I think it's just one of those. There's so many people involved in a theatre show at times as well, that trying to kind of keep a track of what everyone's doing, who's what, who's where, when they're supposed to be. There's just that has to be that trust element between you all, really, that you just hope that
they're going to be there.
that it's going to be there and happen. Obviously, everything's done to minimize it, but yeah, how you react in that moment is, I think, you only find out when it happens.
Yeah, there's that moment where you're standing ready to do a scene change or whatever, and your crew aren't there.
Yeah.
I love that one.
All right, okay, yes. So I'm just bringing this big thing off by myself. That's fine. That'll be absolutely no problem at all. And then you, 9 times out of 10, they emerge from a dark corner somewhere just in the nick of time. But sometimes they don't, and you are left to completely move stuff on your own. And you're like, oh, okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think it's the pressure one's a funny thing, but it's like you said, it's as we deal with it. I think it's interesting because I feel very much the same, that I hate live TV and broadcasting, but yeah, I work in live theatre and don't have a problem with it. So
Yeah.
I think I used to find the pressure of the rehearsal room more than the actual performance. Do you know
I
what
feel a lot more exposed in the rehearsal room.
Well, yeah, you are, aren't you? I think when you're sort of, when you just doing a run through in a rehearsal room, I always find a little bit more pressurizing because everyone can see you. Do you know
I
what
know
I mean?
you've got a team around you, like you haven't got a crew, and you're kind of
you're doing like 8 jobs.
Yeah.
And people like sort of looking at you like, why are you running around? Like, why are you,
why are you sweating?
Yeah, it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like 12 people's jobs that 3 of us are doing.
Yeah, like why are you hanging off a ceiling? Because you've like made some sort of, temporary structure to put a bit of set on.
Yeah.
You've got to climb up like, a window to get it down. I always used to find that pressure quite horrible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What, the rehearsal rooms?
Yeah. And tech pressure for me. That's
I think that tech pressure, it's
like, as a crew member, well, part of the touring crew, I think tech is stress, but for you guys, especially like Sammi and Gaz, tech is just hectic as anything, and I genuinely don't know how you guys. Well, I do know how you do it.
You've just got to be like, you've just got to try and make it
go as smoothly as you can.
Fun for yourself, foremost. You know what I mean?
My biggest anxiety is being the reason why the tech has stopped.
Yeah.
That's like a thing that keeps me awake. Like,
it's like, Gaz, that's what you get for, like your name.
Well, that's all you hear from every direction of the stage. Yes.
I love that.
I've got no problem with stopping. I like stopping during tech because you only really get a chance to fix the problems in tech. So for me, I kind of want a scene change to mess up because I want us to have a few goes at it. Whereas if it goes well, you tend to just move on sometimes. You think, oh Christ, we might have just got lucky there. But I go all these little things that I prep with my book, like cheat sheets and stuff, so that if we need to stop, I'm like, okay, right, we're ready to start. Like, because I don't want it to be me. And when it does happen and it's you're just like, I actually want to die. Like,
but at the end of the day, it happens like they always have. It has to happen for that exact reason. If we did it perfectly in tech, like, what would be the point of it? Do you know what I mean? Imagine what the show would be like.
Well, say as well. Like, it depends on the show you're doing and like what happens in that. Well, do you know what I mean? Like, I've worked on plays where you literally just stood there like,
and nothing happens for half an hour.
Well, you might get one scene change, and that's at the interval. But like, shows like Swan Lake and stuff like that, we had some pretty horrible scene changes where there's a lot of weight coming in from the grid. The guys, they've not got any space to move, and you literally. I remember when I was teaching Sammi my track, and I was like, you just got to tick it off. You know it's coming, so you start feeling that pressure of that scene change or whatever, and you do think, what all these things could go wrong here. And but once it's out of the way, that's it, and then you just that pressure's gone, and then you move on to the next thing. Do you know what I mean?
My least favourite on Red Shoes was the coming out of Lermontoft's thingy with that bloody
nightmare.
Plinth.
With the what?
Nightmare. Remember when we had to take the plinth off in the dark and the sofa?
Oh
thing?
yeah.
Right, and I used to be literally running
when you're running,
all over when I was covering Shiv's plot, and I'd be like, ah!
In cacophony.
That's it, cacophony. And you would always come off running off into the wing, right, sprinting off, And then there was always, without fail, either crew members standing exactly where you need to go or cast members, and you're like, I don't want to break your toes. Get out of the way, and you're just running straight into people, and you're just like, oh, it was just absolutely carnage.
It took quite a while.
And then
to get
Gaz has got to do that and turn around and be like, yeah, okay, we're set, we're good.
Yeah.
It's clear. I've got to go.
Everything's fine.
Mad.
It's fun because bits of music from shows when you have a really stressful scene change.
Oh,
It stays with you.
PTSD.
Yeah, honestly, I went to go and watch I think it was like the third Bridget Jones film, and there's a bit of music in that from Meistersinger, which is a horrific opera. And I was watching like the film in the cinema, and I was like, oh my god, I'm literally sweating. Like, why can I feel myself getting really clammy and stressed? I was like, it's the music, because at this point in the show, normally I'd be like, oh my god, it stays with you, the fear.
Yeah.
I'll laugh
I
you
still
with
got that every time I hear a Frankie Valli song. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
turn it off.
Yeah, good one.
I think that's kind of part of it, really, is it's kind of you end up with things that just kind of stick with you, despite you just hear bits and pieces and you kind of bring that into your everyday life. And it's, the stressful moments stick with you.
I just want to ask this. So I don't know if it's just me, right? Whatever show you're working on, I don't know, like, doesn't matter what it is, musicals, whatever. It's mainly musicals that it happens with, I think, right? But do you ever, when you're on that show, is all you hear is the songs from that show when you're out and about? Like, see, you know how like shops and restaurants and that play music? Do you ever get it that every single time you're on a show, it just happens to be that when you're out places, they play songs from that show? Because I get it all the time, and it drives me up the wall.
Sometimes.
But then I don't know if that's just because like I'm more aware of it because you're doing that show.
I'll quite often be in a bar and, maids and servants from Swan Lake will come on and I just think.
Well, yeah, no, you have done ballet for ages, no?
I think musicals.
Musicals that happen a lot.
You'll get it if you do Nutcracker next year at Christmas, because you hear the Nutcracker everywhere. I've done Birmingham Royal Ballet's Nutcracker a couple of times, and it follows you for months. Because you hear it everywhere. It's on every TV advert. It's in every shot. And I couldn't even like sing it right now. No, neither could I. But when you get it on the show, it will just stick with you if you do it next year. And at Christmas time, it's everywhere. So I know what you mean. Yeah.
We hope.
Yeah. So I think this is a little bit of a slightly broader question, but we'll carry on with the shows and stuff. And it kind of links into what Erin was just saying there. The differences of just working between ballet, musicals, plays, just quite how much that changes. They all fall under this theatre bracket that we all work in, yet there's a huge difference between it. And going into opera as well, which is a kind of whole world on its own.
You say that, honestly.
Did you love it, Sammi?
I loved some of it. It's so dependent on the on the opera itself, because obviously some of the music's really beautiful, but also the director. I think there's quite a lot of unfortunate huge scale operas where there's not a lot of actual movement going on, because it's maybe a bit more traditional, whereas if you're quite lucky and you get on more of a modern opera or an opera with a modern director who wants to push the singers to move around more and behave more like music
up a wee bit.
And that's amazing, because then you're busy. Some of the scene changes are pretty wild, but you have 5 hours.
Changes are incredible, and they're in a right of their own, completely different, aren't they?
It's a weird one. It's just the length of the shows, and also you can't really sing along because they're normally singing in another language.
Yeah. So I with opera, right? I've only really, I've done quite a lot of it when I was a Kazi, and mainly follow spotting. The scene changes and stuff were massive, but few and far between. But follow spotting it, I tell you right now, it was so difficult because they're stood still for so long, and then so you just kind of get used to being stood still, and then they go. And then the jerk out, and then you're like, oh, okay, there you go, you're away, right? But then also, I was that busy concentrating on reading the subtitles.
Yeah.
I'm reading the subtitles that I wasn't, I was losing focus, and that's me just showing everybody how good a full spotter I am, evidently. why I don't do it anymore. But no, like opera for me is not my bag personally. I also wasn't sure how much I was going to be into ballet, but since joining New Adventures and Bourne and stuff, I've absolutely adore it now. I really, really appreciate it, and it's made me really, really appreciate it. Because, like as you said, Cal, I'm quite stagey, and I'm sure I will go back to musicals at some point. But like, I didn't realise how much I would enjoy ballet and things like that. Absolutely love it.
From my perspective of like calling a show a musical, or like something actually that New Adventures do, because although it's dance, like there's quite a lot going on in terms of the lights and stuff. You don't really get many like bump cues in like an opera. Yeah, and then like in a play, obviously it's a lot less because it's normally quite subtle. So there's probably a little bit less going on there.
Yeah.
It's probably also the scale of it, how like in a play you tend to have smaller casts. So from like a management perspective, you haven't got to worry about the safety of so many human beings at any one time. Like musical theatre, you tend to have like quite a big ensemble, operas, big chorus, lots of bodies that could potentially not be in the right place at the right time. A bit more.
Yeah. I like doing a play every now and again. I've only done a few, but like it's such a different dynamic. Do you know what I mean? Especially in the rehearsal room, because it's so like it's all about them, rewriting the show basically. I always enjoy that kind of process.
What have you done most of, Gaz?
Musicals.
Yeah. And what about you, Sammy?
Opera. I was in opera for like 6 years.
Grand, guys. Well, we'll start to wrap this up with our last kind of outro questions. Everyone on the podcast gets asked these 3 questions. 2 are a little bit random. 1 is a little bit more kind of designed just to kind of end on a positive note. But so first one, you may have done this, I don't know, but what's your dream gig or show to work on?
That's really hard.
It used to be before I started actually touring and things, I used to always want to work on Wicked because that was my favourite. I know it's so cliche, whatever, I don't care. Absolutely adore it.
You do you.
But exactly. I always wanted to work on it. But see, the more, like, because I never ever wanted to know how any of the fancy things in it were done, like how our broom just like is floating, all that. I never wanted to know how any of it was done until I actually worked on it. But now I'm not so sure that I do want to work on it because I wouldn't want to ruin it for myself, if that makes sense. So I think but the one that would be at the top of my list just now would be to be on Billy Elliot. I think that like technically is a really cool show, and I really love the show as well. Like I've always loved it. So yeah, I think my dream show to work on would be Billy Elliot just now. That may change, but I think it does kind of change, doesn't it? Like you kind of have phases of things and what you fancy.
Yeah,
definitely.
I watched Hamilton in lockdown, like lockdown
one.
And I'd really been quite hesitant to watch it because I'm really grumpy about going to the theatre. I'm the exact opposite of Erin. I hate going to the theatre on my day off because it's like a holiday. I'll go and see something if a friend is working on it, but like it takes quite a lot to get me to be like willing to physically pay money and go and see a show. Because also you'll sit there watching it and I'm more interested in how the show has actually been put together rather than the actual...
Yeah, you sit there and dissect it. Like, it's not enjoyable, is it? You sit and dissect. Well, it is enjoyable, but you do sit and dissect, definitely.
And everyone was losing their heads about Hamilton when it first came out. And I was a bit like, meh, whatever. Like, don't really know anything about American politics. And then they released it on Disney Plus. And I watched it and I'm absolutely obsessed. But I would die to work on it. It's amazing. Everything about it I love. Like, I make myself sick with how stagey it's made me.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely obsessed with it. So I guess that, but I say, is that same thing? Because I love it so much, would I want to work on it? Because
No, that's the thing, because you don't want to ruin it for yourself.
and if I had to watch it every single day, because essentially that is what, you know.
Jersey Boys was one of my favourite musicals until I worked on it, and I still love it, don't get me wrong, like, it's incredible, but I would never go and see it again, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
when you do something for 10 months or a year or whatever, it just takes that wee bit of joy out of it, doesn't it? And it makes it that wee bit less exciting.
yeah. It's weird. It's really hard to pinpoint. Like,
I don't know. Do you know what? I've been asked this question so many times, and like also like, what's the best show you've worked on?
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's always like, what's the best show you've worked on? And that's always like a big struggle.
They're all different.
Well,
everything you do has got a different dynamic as well. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I feel so like, you know, like buzzing that I've been part of some amazing shows and like work with some amazing people and names or whatever, and get to do like, you know, the Olivier's every year and all that stuff. And you just think, yeah, this is amazing. So I almost like, part of me goes, you know, 37 goes like, oh, maybe I've done it. Maybe I've done, you know.
Yeah.
So I think even more so this year, with everything that's gone on, I always like, I'm more sentimental about my job, I think, now, and the shows that I've done. Do you know what I mean? But I think I don't know if it's a show. I think I'd love to work on Glastonbury or something like that. Do you know what I mean? I've been a few times.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's off the scale, but I think I'd love to work on it. But then at the same time, I don't know how much work I'd get done.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I used to do festivals and stuff before I actually done theatre. And I'm kind of glad that I got it out of my system then.
Yeah.
In a sense, because it's different, but it is also, I would say, it's almost even more fast paced than theatre is.
Yeah.
In a sense, but that would be great though if you could like do a stage, because you've got a stage manager role in live events. It's just a bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some like rock and roll stuff, you know, in the past, and like you say, it is like a totally different pace. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
completely.
like, you know, arena jobs and stuff like that, and tours, like on the tour bus and all that. And you get there, and you get off, and you just, you know, dream
Well,
that.
it still would be amazing though.
Yeah, it's mad, but yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? But I'm gonna go for Glastonbury, Callum. That's gonna be my,
grand.
Oh, Oasis, the Oasis
reunion.
The Oasis reunion. I'll be there. Like, I've got a full no-look. Like, gives a job, mate.
With your bucket hat on. Champagne soup.
I'll get one of my 200 Parkers out of the cupboard and
yeah, the man with all the jackets.
Love it.
Yeah, mate.
Absolutely. Love it. So second one, a little bit, might be simpler, might not be. What's that favourite post-show or get-out snack? Like one thing you've got to have.
Pint Stella.
I was going to say, apart from gin and tonic.
I mean, yeah. It's
First one is probably a gin and tonic and a pack of Ready Salt Crisps in the pub.
I'm going to say pickled onion Monster Munch.
Ooh.
And a pint of dark fruits. But if I can't have but what about a curry? I don't do a curry every night, but I always want a curry after the show. When are you ever not in the mood to go and get a curry after the show?
That is, well, yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I'm going to say Monster Munch, pickled onion Monster Munch, and a pint of dark fruits.
Double cheeseburger for me.
Mackey's.
Oh my God, nugs.
Oh, nugs, yeah, double cheeseburger.
Oh, Sammy, we did do a couple of nug nights, didn't we?
Right, final one, ending on hopefully some positive notes. If there's one thing that you know now that you wish someone had told you when you first started out in your career and on your path, what's that one thing that you wish you knew when you first ventured into the world of theatre?
Oh,
whoa.
That's deep, man. That's deep.
I'm aware, but I think it's like, for me, it's absolutely if an opportunity is there, and regardless necessarily of where or what it is, it's jump at it and take it, find a way to make it work. If it's something that you can't say no to, because you never know what that is then going to lead to going beyond, even if at the initial moment when you accept that opportunity, it seems like a bit daft and a bit far-fetched and it's not really going to work for you. But if you never know if that opportunity is going to lead on to something else that can lead to massive work from there.
For me, it's probably like I didn't train to get into the industry. I went to uni and stuff, but I didn't do stage management. So a lot of my insecurities when I was starting out was that, oh my God, I haven't trained and I feel like I'm wearing it like a t-shirt that I've not trained, and people are going to just know the minute I walk in a room. And I was convinced that like if you go and do like a stage management degree, you get like this secret book that like if you haven't done that degree you can't possibly know it, like as if Google didn't exist or like whatever. And actually nobody really cares if you just turn up and do your job as well as you can and get on with people. Like I think my thing would be to not stress about how you got into the industry, just like concentrate on being in it and doing the best you can. That sounds so cringe.
I honestly, I totally agree. I'm the same as Sammi, in fact that I didn't, come into the industry as a stage manager or in stage management straight away. I started off, from very humble beginnings, and sort of then, further along the line, this like settled into stage management and did all the business that goes with that. But yeah, it's the same. There's this kind of like aura of like, oh my God, like, am I going to get judged because, I've not done what this person next to me has done? But that doesn't mean to say that they're better than you or worse than you. Do you know what I mean? You've just got to, like you said, Carl, you've got to seize the opportunities that come at you. I think it's very different these days, when we get work experience come in and write into me and stuff like that. And it's almost like this, it's like they're begging, do you know what I mean? To be noticed. And it's like, don't worry about it. Like, honestly, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean anything. It's like how you take the opportunities and how you sort of, go about your day.
Yeah.
And how you sort of take in how the industry works and stuff like that.
Yeah, how you learn from it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think there's that sort of, how do I word this? It's like immediate pressure before you've even started. Do you know what I mean? I think, you just got to take it as it comes and don't be sort of scared to say no to something either.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I think people respect that. Some people can just say yes, 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 and promise you the world, and actually they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that. Be honest. If it can't happen for whatever reason, just say, I'm really sorry, but we can't do it quite like this. Like, do not say, yeah, because people are going to be way more cross with you.
Exactly. They might hate you for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But they'll love you afterwards because they realise you saved their time.
Yeah.
And don't do it, and I know. Don't be one of those. If you don't know, just say, because it's far easier to...
Yeah, ask questions. Don't be like
ask loads of questions. And like I did train technically I did a degree in technical theatre, but what that degree taught me is questionable. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not going to name drop my university, but anyone who went to it will also probably agree with me here. I felt quite, when I started touring especially, I felt a wee bit out of my depth because other people kind of my age or roundabout who were touring as well had been to like RADA and like actual established theatre unis and whatever. I don't, what do you call that? Like
Drama schools.
Drama schools, there you go. Theatre unis. drama schools and that, right? But I hadn't had that. I'd come from another uni in Glasgow. Anyway. So it's almost though, right, it's quite funny about this. Uni almost taught me what not to do. So while I was at uni, I was also a casual in the King's and the Theatre Royal in Glasgow. And that is where I learned everything. That is where I learned everything that I knew, because I was actually hands-on learning from the guys and girls in there who were just incredible towards me. Like, they would help me out. And if I didn't know anything, and this is the one thing I would say to people who are just starting out, if you don't know, just ask. No one's going to hold it against you. And see if you mess up. If you mess up or you do something that was wrong or whatever, hold your hands up and say, my bad. And that will get you so much further than trying to cover it up or worrying about it or panicking about it. Just put your hands up and say, I messed that up. Can someone show me why we don't do it like that, or what it should have been done like, or blah, 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 blah. No one is going to shoot you in the face, I promise you. Like, everyone will you'll get far more respect for just, well, maybe Gazwell, I don't know. No, you'll get far more respect if you just admit that you're, not even admit, but just hold your hands up and say, listen, I'm sorry, I messed that up. I think that's like that would be my one bit of advice. I'd say if you mess up, you hold your hands up, because that's one of the first things I was taught, and it has done me really well over the years. It's done me really, really well.
Yeah.
So, and nobody can get mad at you because you go, I'm sorry, and that's that.
Guys, I think that's 3, 4, 5, a load of advice that people can take on, and it's been an absolute pleasure having the 3 of you on. I hope you've enjoyed it, and yeah, it's been an absolute blast.
Thanks, mate.
No worries, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Stage Is Yours podcast. Want to know more? Then head over to all of our socials. You can find us at Stage Is Yours Pod, where you can catch a cheeky glimpse at some of our upcoming guests, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure that you never miss an episode. This has been the Stage Is Yours podcast, talking all things theatre and events. Until next time.